because the relationships then there'll be a time when time draws you apart. Matter, it still functions. So now we'll say, thanks for coming, Spalding, and...
The first play we want to talk about today is a play called Monster. And this is a collaboration.
Well, they're all collaborations.
They're all your plays.
They're all
to some
of these
degree.
solo plays. The two, certainly the two we'll talk about today, Monster and Who Killed Spalding Gray, are created by Daniel Brooks and myself. Although we chose on Monster to kind of give him a front credit because people don't understand. I'm the writer and the performer, and what ends up happening is that people associate the play with me entirely, but Daniel is the dramaturg and the director, which basically means that if I often will improvise to begin these plays, and if I'm go in a direction that isn't interesting to Daniel, I will not go in that direction. So in a sense, he is guiding the writing, because he's the audience at the very first audience who is dictating what is of interest. I mean, we know we'll argue at certain points about what I think is more interesting or not, but he really guides it by being present and giving his attention. So, in that way, I think of them all as collaborations.
I think that's a very good point to make, because theater is, by its very nature, a collaborative form. And so even if you did reduce it to a completely one-person show who made all their costumes, you still have the audience. You still have this collaboration going on. So thank you so much for bringing that up. And then this idea that the dramaturge and the director is as much a part of the creation as the playwright really reminds us of the collaborative nature of theater and how all of these elements work together. So if you, well, as you all are doing in the class, reading plays, when you read a play, your mind is doing all the work of the dramaturge and the director and the lighting designer and the costume designer. And so as you read, of course, I encourage you to let your imaginations go, but really put yourself in that world and remember that these things are all happening before you. I just want to go back one brief moment to this idea of meta theater and the use of light and sound and the states that you use in your plays, or that they come up over and over again through Monster. Here Lies Henry, for sure, and Who Killed Spalding Gray. So this idea that there will be states that indicate where you are and who the characters are to a certain degree.
Who the characters are when it's more of a fourth wall situation. Often, I'll be contained inside light that has parameters. So you'll see the edges of the light, hard edges, like boxes, very varying sizes of boxes of light. Whether it's myself or if I'm solo, or whether it's a multi-character play, we'll do that as well. And then when you're the audience present, often those lines will disappear, and then we'll see more of the space, and we'll feel. It's a personal thing. I don't light the audience often because I know the audience is less comfortable being lit. In Spalding Gray, I do light them at the beginning, but I tend to just open the light on the stage to indicate to the audience that they're present.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And so with Monster, I saw Monster when it was produced many, many years ago. And as the title might indicate, I found it a terrifying play. It's a terrifying play.
It was very fun to do.
We're introduced at the beginning to this idea of some sort of vague terror. Would you say that would be the...
it was one of the jumping off points was Doris Lessing's The Fifth Child. I don't know if you're familiar with The Fifth Child. It's wonderful, kind of a novella, quick read, terrifying. But it was just this idea of, it basically addresses the idea that there is such a thing as an innate badness or evil. And that is not connected to environment or nurture or any of those things, that it's actually innate. So that was one of the early themes. And also there's this idea of, we talk about demons, people have demons, and so we just redefine that as people have monsters. So that was part of the initial theme as well. And at the time, also Daniel Brooks's partner, Jennifer, was pregnant with their first child, which I became the godfather for. So that was also, there was this idea of pregnancy or new birth that was just surrounding us, and as we were working. And we were, we were younger, and it was like the first, or very early in terms of that idea of new birth in the circle, So that was also circulating as sort of thematic, and all those ideas were circulating that ended up. And we can, I think we'll talk a little bit more about this later, but I have sort of had this ongoing journey through addiction that also plays often in many of the shows, but particularly in this show it played.
It played a
very
large part
prominently,
in this play. There are certainly a number of themes of addiction in this play, and then there's this idea of the demon, the something that's inside. And what I love about this work is that's introduced right away with this character, Adam. And it's not that he says anything that's particularly horrifying, but it's the ominousness of his presence as performed by
and he
you.
has it. And what's really, I think what people found chilling was he has such disdain for the audience. And we're not used to, we're used to being kind of attended to in a way that the narrator has great disdain and finds them foolish.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because just on the heels of talking about meta theater and stepping out of the audience, and thank you for coming, this character really approaches that relationship in a different way.
Yeah.
And so you all feel a little bit, like subjugated to his
I just
evil.
want to add, there's something about meta and meta process that allows for invention and accident to become part of the work. So that very early, we performed this show in Calgary at the High Performance Rodeo that put on there by One Yellow Rabbit, and they it was very early in the process, and I came out in the beginning at the dark, and I'm supposed to start, and someone kicked over a beer bottle in the audience in the dark, and it was very noisy, and I just said, "Shut up, asshole." And that became the perfect beginning.